Okay, so welcome back to another episode of The Religious Stripper. In this episode, I'm going to talk about how I started my own company and ran the illegal underground rock and roll scene in Hollywood. So I shared in my last episode how I became a burlesque dancer and started performing. I started traveling the world, going to Barcelona and New York and a couple other places doing shows. But that wasn't until after I started my company and really started kind of finding my voice as a dancer and really putting myself out there. So for a while, I was just taking on as many shows as I could, free shows, low-paying shows, just as many as possible to get my name out there, my face out there, and to just get better, because you have to start at the bottom and pay your dues if you want to work your way up. And one day I went to a party and there was the lead of a band there and they needed a burlesque dancer for one of their rock and roll sets. And he said he was performing at the Rainbow Bar and Grill. And because of my ex-husband, who was a musician, I knew that was a pretty legendary bar in the music scene. So I said yes, thinking like this will probably be a cool thing to have on my resume. I went and I performed at the show and just I did all my acrobatic stuff. They were not prepared for it or ready for it. I did it for free and I just went like way over the top. I always went way over the top. I was like known for going way over the top, but I wanted to get good fast. So I really wanted to put myself out there. And it worked. The band manager who hired all the bands noticed me and was like, hey, like, do you want to dance here? And I was like, hey, do you want to pay me to dance here? And he was like, okay, like, I'll pay you a little bit and you can dance here. And I was like, okay, cool. So I started dancing there just like whenever I really felt like it, which was nice. If I needed the extra cash, I would just, say, hey, I'm coming in tonight, dance, just go on a little box, would wear whatever I felt like wearing. I would say it was easy, but it wasn't because the music was so loud because it was like hardcore metal and like the speakers were by your ears. Honestly, like, I don't know how I don't have more brain damage. It was actually pretty intense and it went pretty late into the night. And then I started doing like after hour stuff too. So there'd be these little like house parties late at night. I would go and dance. I'd make tips on top of the base pay, and it was all right. It wasn't the worst thing in the world. So after about a month of doing this here and there, just kind of whenever I felt like it or I needed the cash, I started noticing he was trying to get other girls to come, and it'd be girls who were like wasted, who didn't really have experience, who weren't very good, and so I decided to seize the opportunity. The businesswoman in me was like, okay, I'm going to make something out of this. So I told him, I was like, look, you need dancers. I have dancers who need jobs. Pay me a little bit more. I'll start hiring girls and bringing them in and like build something out of this. And he was like, all right, let's try it out. And I wasn't working with a lot of money. It was very, very little money, but I needed to start somewhere, I felt like, and I felt like I could grow it. So I started bringing in girls and we started dancing there as a troupe. And then one day he was like, okay, I have this new after hours spot. Come check it out. It's dope. He brings me to this auto body parking lot shop area. And in the corner of all the shops, there's like this tiny black door. And we walk into this door, there's a second door, we walk into the second door, and we go inside, and there's just crazy fog machines, disco lights. It's like a 2-3 story high auto body shop that they've like decked out. It's so dirty and gross, but it's just this huge space to just create. And so I just began, the businesswoman in me just jumped on it and decided to take up the opportunity to create something. So I had 15 girls that I hired on my roster. I started scheduling them out. I had 2 girls at the Rainbow Bar and Grill twice a week, and then 3 girls at the after hours twice a week. And I just started building shows out of what I had. We weren't making a lot of money to start, but I just took the opportunity, and I had girls that were down to work, and it wasn't a lot of money, but it was some enough. It slowly kind of started to build, and we started making more money as time went on, and eventually, like, by the time we ended, I think we were making like $200 a gig, give or take. There'd be some nights we didn't make as much, but for starting out, you know, I think we started out doing it for free, tips only, and sometimes we walk away with like not a lot, not a lot of money at all. So with this after hours bar, I just kind of designed this whole play world for myself. I was working with all these super old, like rock and roll coke addicts. And it was so great. Ron Jeremy was one of our main clients. Leatherface was one of our main clients. And they just come to this crazy party at 2 a.m. with these disco lights. And it was not legal at all, but we just went to dance, and I just designed this whole show. They eventually rigged up silks for me, so I would have girls in all corners of the room eating fires, girls coming down from the ceiling and doing aerial silks. They installed a pole for me. I had girls on the pole. Like, we would just dance, and it was really rough work because it was from 2 a.m. to 5 a.m. and it was exhausting. And it's not like we were making loads of money, but it was a blast. And for the most part, we had the freedom to do whatever we wanted. So it was the first time that I had created my own show. I had my own residency, and I could bring people after parties and be like, check out what I created. And it was really awesome. And I was really lucky. I had such a strong team of girls who just trusted in my vision and followed me with creating this thing. So within a year, I had created my own LLC. I had 15 girls working for me. I had 2 residency clubs. We started getting more gigs here and there, and it was pretty cool. It was exhausting. I would never do it again, but it was really dope. That gave me the platform to really start understanding business, to really start like managing, to start creating, and to become like a lead player in the performance world. It kind of took me from being just another dancer to now a businesswoman and a dancer. And so when I moved to LA, I was a terrible dancer, but then all these girls that were so much better dancers than me started working for me. And I moved up to the top of the line and started working with all the top circus companies in LA because they knew I could manage too. And I was performing so much because I was at all the shows making sure they would run. I was at like anywhere between like 4 to 10 shows a week, just performing while managing. So I was getting good fast. I was building up my strength and my endurance, my stamina, finding my own groove and style. And that's really the trick in Hollywood, is that you can't. So that's the trick to Hollywood that a lot of people don't realize. It's not about doing the same thing that everybody else does and trying to copy what other people who have been successful have done before. It's about creating something new and different that nobody else can do or has done. And my style was just unique. And some people liked it and some people didn't. But because it was different, I got booked a lot. And I was able to get a lot of gigs. So that's really the trick to it. And that's really what like helped me excel so quickly in my career and really helps me stand out. It really comes down to like, if you want something, it takes 10,000 hours to be a professional. So you just have to put in 10,000 hours to become a professional and to be the best, and just, you know, always be authentic to yourself. That's really the only trick to life and being successful. So, it made a huge difference, but it was great because all my roots came from the Sunset Strip and this crazy rock and roll, wild, just wild place that little Christian girl me never would have expected myself to be in, dancing at like 4 a.m. in like my underwear, getting like dollar bills tipped into my clothes, eating fire. So, but it was kind of cool because, like, you know, I've actually never been a stripper. I've never done stripping before. I've never performed in a strip club. I've danced on the line for sure, but I've never actually done like legitimate stripper work. except for like on film for a TV show. But the funny thing is, like, what was the funny thing? Oh my god, I just forgot. Wait. Okay, the funny thing is that even though I've never actually like been a stripper, I can see how a lot of the things I do make it seem like I've been one. Anyone who's in the industry knows the very distinct difference between burlesque, go-go, and stripping. It's all very, very different, and it's not at all the same. There's a very different mindset, there's a very different audience, and there's a very different goal. But regardless, when we started at this club, people used to call us strippers, and I would get so mad because we weren't there taking our clothes off. We would do some burlesque numbers here and there, but it was art, and it wasn't to like get men's money. It wasn't to get men off. It wasn't anything like that. It was art. And so it took time, but when we initially went, the men were they were men. They were dogs. They treated us as if they were dogs, you know, and just very not how I liked it. So I complained a lot and made a scene and was like, don't touch my girls inappropriately. Don't disrespect them. Don't be rude to them. If you want us to keep dancing here, you still treat us like ladies. You can tip us, you know, like, yeah, we're sexy, but like, we're doing hard skills. We're coming down from the ceiling in a drop on the silks at like 4 a.m. in the morning and like dropping fire down our throats. Like, and even when we're dancing, like some of the girls would be like doing these long ass extensions and splits and stuff. And it's like, that's hard work. So, and we're just trying to build a name for ourselves and build a living. Don't start disrespecting us. And even like with strippers too, like don't disrespect them. They're just trying to make a living. Like, you don't know a person's story. You don't know what they're coming from. And if they're showing talent, just like respect them. But either way, I just didn't appreciate how we were being treated when we first got there. So I didn't let them treat us like that. And by the time we left, they were so good to us. They treated us like royalty by the time we left. You know, I would walk in, they would open the door for me, they would ask me if I needed anything. They would be so polite and so kind. So it was really kind of cool to see how we changed this culture, this very rock and roll, very like grungy, just men in porn kind of environment. Before they had actual hookers there. A year ago that it was open, it was shut down by the police. But when it was open, they had actual hookers there. So when we came, I think they expected the same thing. And I was like, no, like we are performers. We're here to do a job and to create a show. And this is our safe space to create something. So we're going to make it safe and you're going to make it safe or we're gone. And they came to realize like we were doing hard stuff, like hard skills. And they came to really appreciate and respect us as performers, but also as women. By the time we left the club, they were so sweet to us. So, you know, that was like a really cool thing. It really comes down to, like, a reason why I'm so big on women empowerment is because it is the responsibility of the men and the women, both. You know, and women have to remind men and really state that they deserve respect. And then men have to give it. They don't have to, but if they don't, then the women should walk away. That really is just the point of it all. So that was a really cool time. I would never go back to it again, but it was a really cool time. So yeah. That's for this episode, all about Sunset Strip and how Rainbow Phoenix Variety Co. came about. It wasn't until quarantine that I started shifting, and that was when I really started working through my trauma. So had it not been for quarantine, I would have stayed deep in the nightlife, performing until the sun came up, just kind of in this cycle of like bad habits and just kind of like spiraling out of control. Or just spiraling nowhere, really. But it was quarantine that really like changed everything for me. So my next episode, I'm going to talk about dealing with trauma and just kind of how I took a shift from performance and entertainment to social media and how I really like kind of found myself and balanced out these two extremes of being a missionary, good girl, Christian girl, to being this like dark seductress dancer in the night. But that's for next time. So I'll catch you then. Thanks for dropping in, and remember to be a badass, babe.